Hey, Mary, welcome to the Business First Creative Podcast. How are you today?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me.
It's so wonderful to have you. So, before we begin, why don't you tell the listening audience who you are and what you do and where you exist?
Okay. My name is Mary Otanias, and I live in Richmond, Virginia. And I am a motherhood photographer, and I'm also a brand photographer as well. I started out as a wedding photographer and loved it and was very successful at it. And then at the peak of my success, I decided to change things. Awesome. But it's been wonderful. I feel like now I'm in a nice groove with this new transition into this type of work. I used to be a producer at a advertising agency for about 10 years. And I loved that. I always say that's my grad school because I was an art major. And so I kind of feel like working in such an intense environment and yeah, a lot on the line with money and budgets and schedules. And it was like a really good grad school for me. So I think it set me up well for running my business.
I would imagine that some of that advertisement agency information comes in handy when you're doing brand photography. So, I feel like you have the inside track there.
100%. Yeah. I feel like that's kind of like when people say, where's your edge or your niche that separates you from someone else or things like that. And that totally felt great because I didn't feel like I had to struggle for that when I was like, okay, no, I'm great at production. So I can really think about the things that need to happen all the way to the shoot date to make the shoot date like a seamless production. And you get exactly what you want and what you need for your business. Yeah, it's a total different ball game there as opposed to like
And it,
family. And I'm really just going for the emotion and for the look and the feelings. Well,
yeah,
two
I mean,
different things.
I do very limited commercial work, but I even though my commercial work is actually all related to family brands, so I don't have to like flip it in my head too much, but it is an entirely different ball game. So what I want to talk to you about now is how many years in did you make that switch from weddings to now motherhood plus brand? And
Yep.
then we're going to start talking about your systems.
Yay. Okay. If you ever said that like 5 years ago, we're going to talk about your systems, I'd be like, what are you talking about? Just to give you a tidbit into how much I have grown since. So, to answer your question, I have been doing running my own business now, I guess, since 2013. So, it would be 10 years. So, I think I started to like transition at year 4. I was already like at my peak, doing great, making good money, happy clients, but there was no systems, by the way. There was no like automated anything. There was no, I was just like legit sending out a contract and just pretty old school. Actually, when I started, I was accepting checks still. Um, just so you know, old grandma. Um, so that was about 4 years. And then I kind of started making changes of not accepting weddings anymore, but it still went into the 5th year because I had to finish out those weddings that I
Mhm.
committed to. I went from a little dropping off weddings to adding maternity, and then which naturally goes into newborn and just focusing on that. And then realizing kind of halfway through when I went to the family narrative, I think for the first time, I think it was the first time I went to the family narrative, that uh, helped me a ton to realize also what other skills I had. And I
Mhm.
completely just because I left production, I didn't think I could carry that over. Um, and so anyway, I started doing branding work because I was like, oh, this is a total natural fit. I have a very editorial look. This is great too. So I kind of started introducing both. Like at this point, I am running a legit business. We'll jump into. I think actually that's a good segue into the systems thing because yeah,
Yes, it is.
I'll let you drive.
So let's chat about that because you are my first case study that came over to the Dubsado world from Honeybook. So tell me about when you were using Honeybook, what you thought was missing, or why it is that you decided to transition over to Dubsado.
Just in general, I knew that the way that I was booking my shoots was just too cumbersome, time consuming. I mean, a waste, just a royal waste of my time repeating myself to every single client. I'm trying to remember what I had in my HoneyBook. I had just a contract and that was it. And that's all I would send out. And then I would only accept payments. So it would be an invoice and thing that I would make basically from scratch every time. But that was an upgrade from accepting checks. HoneyBook was like, was definitely an upgrade. I knew over time though, because I was one of their first people to get in when they started. So I was kind of grandfathered in into their one price setup. I didn't pay monthly for it. So I fought changing it because it was free, technically. I didn't have to pay monthly for it. So I did try over time. They did create like a little client management system and automated things in there. I just didn't understand how to do it or what I was doing. And really, it just became like I did kind of set up like a standard of process, like, what I would do for each client at what time. But it was like almost just like a checklist. I might as well have just written it and posted it on my wall. You know what I'm saying? Like there was
Yes.
it was just like, this is what I'm going to do. And there really wasn't anything that the system was helping me with. And I'm sure there could have been. I just didn't have the know-how or the time, to be honest, to do that. I need to run a business and make money and I need to do shoots and edit. And, last thing I need to do is hours sitting there not knowing what I'm doing digitally. So anyway, I believe the first time that you started speaking about Dubsado, I can't even remember because I'm an old lady and have no memory. Um, Maybe do you remember? Do you remember? Was the Family Narrative?
I was on Anami's podcast before that.
That
So I
yeah.
was on the This Can't Be That Hard podcast.
Okay.
And then, it aired on my birthday and she was asking me a bunch of questions about CRMs. And like, that's really when I started to transition to think about, okay, so I've been helping photographers be better photographers. Maybe I should help photographers have better systems that don't need my help to be better photographers. And so that's actually like the 6 months after that first podcast guest episode where I was on her podcast. That's when I really started to transition into, okay, I'm going to offer this as like a standalone service because I had been helping the students that I was mentoring set up systems and improve their websites and basically all of the back end stuff that, helps us sell our services easier.
Right.
But I had never considered like just doing that outside of like my mentoring space. And so, then I put it out there. And then of course I talked at the Family Narrative. And I'm pretty sure that's when you hired me.
It was the beginning of 2021 that we implemented this new system for me. And that was 1,000% the only thing that has transitioned me to being a business owner, I think, officially. Like, I don't know what I was doing before. It's like playing Monopoly or something, like I don't know what I was doing. Playing Monopoly very poorly. I just was not uh, letting go of things that thought I needed control over. And I thought maybe if people got automated emails, they would think I was inauthentic. It didn't feel like natural to me. But then once I started hearing you talk about it and the benefits of it, and then also to see, you just kind of showed me what goes on and like what you do. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is not inauthentic. This is care for your client. This is like showing up consistently, full information, no questions, left there to be had. It just was an experience that I didn't think like an automated system could give you. I thought experience was really something that only as a person to person can happen. You're giving them the experience, but it's also, your whole setup needs to be that way. When we got started, Coley, you are on the go, girl. You get it done. You get it done. I was so impressed how quickly we set that up. That was crazy.
In the beginning, I was taking a little bit more time, but then I think by the time you hired me, I had discovered VIP days. And
Yes.
I think with the way that my brain works, it is just easier for me to ask you for all of the information that I need from you in the pre-work. We get together, we do the strategy, and then I just go. Because the longer that this process lingers, the harder it is for me to like stay on top of just your information. So, I mean, it's as much for you as it is for me, definitely. Doing the VIP days has really enabled me to make sure that, like, when I'm working with the one client, like, you have all of my attention and I'm not trying to remember, okay, but wait, no, Mary does motherhood. But Allison is doing these personality portraits. Okay, wait, which one of them needs the second questionnaire? Like, it helps me focus, which as I get older, because you called yourself an old lady, I'm an old lady right there with you. I feel like I feel like it just really helps me make sure that, not only are we creating this awesome experience for your clients, but it's enabling me to give you a better experience as my client,
Uh,
which is also just as important.
Absolutely. 1,000%. The second I hired you, I knew I knew before even it was made that that was the best business decision I've made ever because um I do see myself more as, the frilly artist. I have a romantic mind and I love, beautiful things and I want to capture beautiful things. So I'm definitely an artist that rolled into trying to make this a business. Weddings was kind of easier because I had basically, I always called my wedding planners my agents because like they just do the heavy lifting for you because they're like, oh, I suggest so and so. Like if you have good relationships with wedding planners, you never have to market and you never have to do all that stuff. It's kind of like very simple thing. But I think getting into family work, I feel like family work and branding work, a lot of it is marketing and then pitching. And there's a lot more going on there that Dubsado kind of helps me do from the beginning all the way to the end, including all the in between, the scheduling, the information, all the way to like the review at the end. You know what I'm saying? I feel like it is, for me personally, a little bit harder than weddings to create a full-fledged like business that is functional and making my financial goal each month. When you're making like, 5 to 7 grand a pop, and doing like 20 to 30 weddings, it's so easy to be like, it's fine. My finances are fine. But when you're working, photo shoot to photo shoot and only planning out maybe 1 to 2 months ahead, as opposed to weddings, which is like a year ahead, sometimes a year and a half ahead. So it's just a whole different ball game. And I just wasn't set up at all prior to hiring you and using Dubsado. I wasn't prepared to like really have a functional business that would last.
I mean, we're a year in, so let's talk, because you said that you weren't really doing it, and then you hired me, and it was great. But like, it's been a full year, Mary. Actually, at recording of this, you hired me 14 months ago, or we did your setup 14 months
Yeah.
ago. So it has been more than a
Yes.
year. So how do you feel about the system now versus when I initially set up? And have you had to make any changes to that initial system that I delivered to you last year?
No changes at all, because I love the way that it's set up. I mean, maybe I've added like a new picture in the proposal or like new pricing, but overall, all structured items that we created are still remaining the same. Honestly, you're going to laugh because the other day my husband was in the bathroom and I came in and I was kind of doing like a big old like shimmy dance in front of him. And he was like, oh, okay, why are you so happy? Like, what's going on? I'm weird. And I was like singing a little song in there. And I was like, Mama making money and Mama not working as hard. Like, I mean, really, he was cracking up. He was like, oh my God, you're crazy. But I was so pumped because I think finally a year into it, I have seen I don't work when I say I don't work as hard, it's not that I don't work hard because I do, but I'm able to do so much more now and take on more work, which means making more money because I have my time has been given back to me having this system set up. I've got people who come to my website. I don't have to do anything. All of a sudden I just get an email. Like I have a scheduler on my page, just
Mhm.
contact me. I don't have to go back and forth emails. I know what time to set it up, like what time to have a call. Oh, and let me make a new link and let me, all of this is so time consuming over and over and over again, these repetitive um, acts that we do. And so it's so great. I probably will open my email right now and I'll have like new inquiry. call, on Monday at 10:30. Great. All I have to do is show up. I've done nothing up to that point. I've done nothing. And I have to say, because the way it's set up as well, that I really don't think, I think it's 100%. 100% of people who contact me and we talk, book. I believe you have it on your website too. It's like, make sure you've read my investment guide first. First, make sure you're ready for the pictures. And number two, make sure you've read your investment guide before you schedule with me, because that's the biggest thing. And then I always make sure that when we're talking on the initial call, have you reviewed the investment guide? And they're like, yes. Because really, if they don't up to that point, then it's kind of like, you know, well, at least it's no waste of my, not too much of a waste of my time. It's just jumping on a call. But most of the time, they have reviewed the investment page and they're ready to roll. They just want to talk to me. So I book immediately, and all because of the system, when they schedule and put all their information in, I don't have to do that like I used to do in Honeybook. I used to have to go then, here's their name, here's their number, start a new client. That's already happened on the back end. So when I get off the call, all I have to do is open Dubsado, and then I have to go to send a proposal. Well, I start the workflow and I just send the proposal and the proposal. And then later that night, I get payment and they're booked. And, my workflow then reminds me, okay, as a questionnaire sent out, needs to be sent out. I actually think I already have it automated. You can automate it or send it out yourself. I can't remember, um,
Mhm.
but all of it is just done so easily. So the effort, the hours I would have put into one client prior is literally minutes. Besides the calls maybe like 30 to 45 minutes. But it's just minutes of my time. Right now, I'm trying to spur a healthy balance, having about 8 shoots a month. And, and if there's a brand shoot in there, I try to have less family sessions in there. Um, but I can do that and still pick up my daughter at 2:45, and handle my workload and things like that, because the like what an assistant I feel like would have helped with either now or way back when is what this does, and alleviates. I mean, honestly, I'm pumped. Like I do feel like, oh, I'm really running a business that's functioning. I think sometimes we get confused of like, oh, I'm not really successful unless like I'm burning myself out, and that couldn't be further from the truth.
I know that you keep on talking about how you have a functional business now that you have Dubsado, and why you love the system that I set up for you. It sounds like you feel very confident using the new system since you haven't changed anything in a year. Is that an accurate
Oh,
description?
heck yes. Absolutely. I feel so confident in the business side that it's actually giving me opportunity to just focus what I feel like I I am, and it's more of the artist side, right? I can focus on the creative side. That business side has a really, and I look so buttoned up. The system makes it look more buttoned up. The way things are delivered looks so buttoned up. Um, I know there's these new forms. The things that you've set up are already, I think, functioning with this new form and everything. I'm so pumped that like I don't have to do much in a section in which would usually give me anxiety.
Well, let's talk about anxiety. So, I ask every single one of my guests, I ask every single one of my guests, what was your biggest fuck up in your business? What did it cost you? And what have you learned from it?
Oh, so I had a recent one with a brand client of mine, and it's someone I've had for a while now, and we create consistent imagery, and I'm typically pretty buttoned up, like with my productions and things like that, have a set shot list and get that approved. And this time it was kind of like, well, we're going to kind of do the same thing. And I was like, okay, great. Sounds good. We'll just have a shoot date and let's go. This time I did not do diligence just because of assumptions. I thought we were going to have one of our typical shoots. And then we had, once I got there and started to set up, the client was like, also, I have X, Y, and Z to also photograph. And we only had a 3-hour time slot. and it was a full 3 hours. And what the additional stuff that she wanted to photograph for the shoot, which was not um, relayed to me, but that's not her job. It's my job to say, hey, what's our shot list and to help direct her in that area. Um, but that whole pile of things that needed to be photographed was not, it was just not possible to fit it in within those 3 hours that I had. I had to create a whole new shoot date. After that, I was like, I'm so sorry, was not able to get everything that you wanted. So I had to create a whole new shoot date to arrive, photograph everything that needed to be photographed. And on top of that, of course, because I was already there, there was a few other odds and ends that, when the client's like, can you just grab that? Can you grab this real quick? I'm like, "Yeah, sure," which I should have more of a backbone, to be honest. But, you know, um, and I come home and I have to edit that all. So it's basically a completely free shoot plus extra images um, that that I gave because I simply did not. I mean, I would say that's at least, anywhere from for in my prices, maybe about $1,000 to $1,200 job that was completely done for free. And just because I didn't ask her to sign off, or I didn't even create the darn shot list.
So, Mary, what have we learned from this?
So what I have learned is that um, just because it is a repetitive client and someone who's like coming with what seems like the same type of content every time doesn't mean that it's going to be in a communication is key, and then approved shot lists are needed.
Which you can do very easily.
It's so painful that it could have been done so quick in a questionnaire. I could have looked at it and been like, no, actually that it looks like you have extra things on there. We're going to need to add an extra hour. And I could have been paid for that and not have wasted a whole nother day.
Lesson learned, Mary. Lesson learned.
Oh yeah. But it would have been helpful to have sent a proper workflow. And I didn't.
So, sounds like overall Dubsado was a really great fit for you. But if someone else is in the same position as you, let's say that, because I actually come across a lot of people that are like, oh, but I paid this lifetime for this other CRM. And if I switch to Dubsado or I hire you, is it really going to make that much of a difference? So how would you answer that question?
Hell yes. Again, I mean, really, if anyone is debating, or it was like me who got HoneyBook at like the grandfathered price where it was like instead of monthly, it was a one-time fee. I understand, that they have probably a similar type of setup. I understand that. But the service that you supply alongside Dubsado, not only are their proposals beautiful, right? I think their forms and questionnaires and proposals can be so beautiful with pictures and graphic, things. And I, not only visually do I think they look more beautiful, but your service, in order to get you set up properly, to have something delegated to someone who's an expert in, so that you can breathe easier in an area of your business that you're maybe not an expert in either, like mine. Like I'm just not that business side that creating, workflows and things. It's just not my strong suit. And why I tried so hard for so long to kind of like fight that, because I thought another monthly payment was too much. But I'm making more money. Let's be clear. In order to pay my monthly fee for Dubsado, which is a link compared to how much more I'm making. And also, it's not just, I know I'm talking about finances, but I also have to completely emphasize how much of my life it's given me back. And the fact that like, I'm not stressed. I'm more like mentally also available for my family, for the other things outside of my work, you know, um, because of that, I can add a little bit of exercise time in the morning. I kind of have it set up now, like good boundaries. I don't take more than I have to. I refuse to burn out, and I'm not burning out because I know what I need to make my monthly amount, and that's it. So I stick to those boundaries. I have a setup system now. If someone is wanting balance, like there's only a handful of things in life that I feel like you can pay to get back time. And like this is one of them
Hmm.
to give you current time, on your plate. I'm so pumped I made that decision with you. Like so pumped I did it. And yes, it's a new system. And yes, there's like a learning curve, but it's not a big one. And you eventually, get the hang of it. And then I mean, that's why the happy dance came along, with my husband, just because it just feels so good to finally, we struggle so much as photographers to just get it, to get the jobs, to make the money, to deliver beautiful work, to have it work with your family life. I mean, isn't that kind of why some of us do it too? Is like we want flexible schedules and we want, so this is a huge piece of the puzzle of having a functioning business. I would say this is a big piece for me.
And I mean, I just want to add on to that because what you said about us becoming photographers because we want the flexible schedules, what I see over and over again is that we jump into entrepreneurship because we want the flexible schedules. And granted, we're scheduling our client sessions. So when we actually have face to face interactions with our clients for their photo shoots, but we ignore all of the back end stuff. And so after the shoot, I mean, the shoot is actually the
Small.
smallest part of being a photographer because you have to get the images edited. You have to do all of the communication. You have to get the proposals out. You have to do the consultation calls. So that part that we love, which is going with our clients and actually making beautiful photographs, is overshadowed by all of this other work. And it's what makes me happy to be everybody's Dubsado fairy godmother is because I get to give you all of that time back that all the time that I possibly can. Now, I can't edit your images. Dubsado does not edit them, but you can
Yeah,
hire an editor. You can outsource that. I am just incredibly happy with whatever amount of time I can give my clients back because it does help them get that business that they actually envision, the one where you get to spend the quality
yeah,
time with your clients and you can minimize all of the other things that it takes to run the successful
of
business, to
course.
be profitable, to continue to say yes to more client work. Because what happens if somebody came to you for like a dream shoot and you're like, oh no, well, I've already shot, all of these sessions and I have all these emails that are unanswered and
That's
unedited.
already lowering the client experience for something you're running late on and just in general, like for your portfolio and other things, consistency is key, right? Visually, having consistency and it kind of sells
Mhm.
your look and your style. And I think that also goes for Dubsado. Your workflow needs consistency so that each client experiences the same thing. So when someone says, Mary was super great and I really loved what she did for me, I know that that person, the next one that's coming to me, is going to get the same experience that the other one did. Like this at least the same background business, the phone calls that they get exactly the same things in what I call my standards of process, like what needs to be done and when, and everyone's getting the same. Before just Dubsado having that workflow, I actually was wondering, I was like, is everyone getting the same experience? I was trying to, but it took so much effort and time and mental space. I can say that I don't work nights. I mean, every once in a while I will with my computer just for fun. But truly, like when I put my daughter down to bed, it's like, nope, work is tomorrow. I have that now. I feel like I have created because of Dubsado's workflow. I feel like now a really balanced business for my life and my work because it's important for me. My work is kind of part of me too. Like it's a form of self-expression. It's a form of how I see the world. It's a form of how I see, whatever client has hired me, and to be honored with looking at whatever they want photographed and making it beautiful. That is a part of me. That's a wonderful gift. And so I have more space now for that and more space for my family. I would say, sure, do falls and springs still feel hectic? Yes. But with this system and then knowing like, okay, a maximum taking 8. I'm going to have boundaries. Maybe if there's like some dream client that comes along, I'll be adding them in. But I think my days of burnout are like, I'm done. I'm done being burnt out.
But I mean, and isn't that wonderful? Like I feel like you've set a lot of boundaries after
Or get
getting
in
your
there.
systems done, which is
Hmm.
music to my ears. But like, I feel like, you
Hmm.
know your limits now. And if you're booking the 8 and you're happy and you're meeting your financial goals monthly, that is excellent. But like you said, if that dream client comes along, at least now you do have the space to say
Totally.
yes if you want to,
Totally.
leaving you to burn
Exactly. And
out.
even
Yeah.
honestly, even if it's not a client and I want to do a test shoot, I did a test shoot last year. Not that I really needed it. I just had a fun idea and I don't think I could have kind of like convinced someone, I think, to pay me for this. So, but I wanted it up for my work and it was kind of editorial and kind of uh, cute, tongue in cheek, kind of cute, little editorial shoot for maternity. And it was wonderful and it filled my bucket. And I had time for that.
Well, and I would guess, just knowing you, Mary, I would guess that if it was tongue in cheek and it was maternity and you did it, for free, you did it for yourself, I'm imagining that that's probably going to lead to some more paid shoots.
Totally.
Let's just be honest. I think if you put that stuff out in the world, someone is going to be like, oh, Mary, I didn't even think about doing that for my maternity shoot.
Oh,
Yeah,
totally,
let's
and it
do
was great,
that.
and I did, It was like, it was an outdoor shoot, but it was outdoor with a linen backdrop, so you could tell that it was outdoor in a field, but it was a linen backdrop. You could see my C stands. You could see, so it was like it just leaned towards editorial, but I wanted it to be super light and cute and, uh playful was the word that I was going for. And it was wonderful. And yeah, and it definitely I got 2 jobs that are very similar to that based off of that shoot. Yeah,
Amazing,
loved it.
Mary.
Mhm.
Amazing. Well, I think that we have talked about everything that I had on my list. I just want to say thank you so much for hopping on my podcast and telling me all about how the systems have affected your business for the last year. I am super excited to hear that you have all of these boundaries and that your business is thriving.
It's so cool that, like, that wasn't your intent to go out and do this service, that it evolved into this service because, it's just meant to be. Like, this is a huge help, and, there was a missing piece there, I think, for photographers. We needed someone like you to come in and say, "Hey, I know how to do this, and I'm gonna make this look beautiful, and it's gonna be seamless for you, and I'm gonna do all the heavy lifting, and you just have to sit back for 2 weeks, and then you're gonna have a new system." Like, that's pretty fairy godmother. It really is. I owe you the biggest, biggest, biggest thank you.
That's awesome, Mary. Well, that's it, guys. This has been another episode of the Business First Creatives podcast. I'm your host, Coley James. Tune in next time. And remember, subscribe and review wherever you listen to your podcasts. Thanks, guys.